As college students who are privileged to be in one of the wealthiest and safest cities in America, it is difficult to imagine the degree of death and destruction that took place in Gaza. And so I ask you all to look around you, look in front of you, look behind you. There are 130 people lying on the ground, each of which represent 10 Palestinians that were killed during the 3-week massacre in Gaza. Over 1,300 people slaughtered. I believe that every killing is a tragedy, even the deaths of the 13 Israelis as a result of Hamas retaliation. However, as many of you have already noticed, the numbers pale in comparison and are representative of the overwhelming disproportionate force. The following is an excerpt of Gaza, Civilians in the Firing Line, from the magazine of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Movement. Quote, "For 3 days, 14-year-old Amira Al-Jarim's name was on the list of presumed dead in the district of Atal al-Hawa in central Gaza City after tank fire reduced her family's home to rubble, killing her father and 2 brothers instantly. Amira was found injured the day before the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas came into effect, ending their armed confrontation. The young girl had taken refuge in a neighboring apartment, abandoned by its occupants who, like so many others, had been forced to flee the intensity of the fighting. Although she miraculously survived, Amira has not escaped the war unscathed. She was rapidly operated on, and her bodily injuries will heal. But will she ever wipe from her memory the moment when she had to climb over the lifeless bodies of her father and brothers to get out of her house, or what was left of it?" End quote. Imagine how it must have been for Amira. Imagine if it was you, climbing over the dead bodies of your loved ones. It's hard, isn't it? And yet, Amira personifies in many respects the Gaza Strip that was ravaged by 3 weeks of horrific and unprecedented violence. 3 weeks of violence in which over 1,300 people lost their lives, 437 of which were children under the age of 16. 3 weeks of violence that left 100,000 people homeless, half of which are children. 3 weeks of violence in which Israel initiated by once again violating a mutual ceasefire agreement. They bombed houses, they bombed buildings, and they bombed UN-operated schools, all with their indiscriminate tools of war. Israel is noted to have some of the most sophisticated military and intelligence gathering technology that the world has ever seen. They have heat-sensitive, night vision, and satellite imaging technology, yet they so choose to be indiscriminate in their aim. And thus they are sending a very clear message to the people of the world. The message of systemic and intentional mass slaughter, otherwise known as genocide. But of course, if you were to ask an Israeli official how something like this can happen, they would respond, or rather they would hide behind the famous "we are currently investigating the matter" excuse. And thus, stories like Amira Al-Jarim's are left ignored. Yet Amira was one of the lucky ones. For many of the children exposed to such violence, even if they were left miraculously unharmed, did not escape the incidents mentally unscathed. In fact, the Gaza Community Health Program estimates that half of Gaza's children will develop some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. Think about that for a minute. Half of Gaza's children, half of the children of the most densely populated piece of earth throughout the world. What does Ehud Olmert, the Israeli Prime Minister at the time, have to say about this? In an interview on January 22nd, he says, "So now there is talk about Israel's cruelty. When you win, you automatically hurt more than you've been hurt. And we didn't want to lose this campaign. What did you want? For hundreds of our soldiers to die? That, after all, was the alternative." End quote. This is the justification he has given for the murder and affliction of civilians of Gaza. This is the justification given to the death of the people like you and I, have family, friends, neighbors, loved ones, hopes, passions, dreams. Many of their futures lie in the crosshairs of Israel's military force. And even if one were to grant this justification, how can this even begin to remotely justify the fact that Israel was blockading crucial medical supplies and food from entering Gaza? Or even the fact that Israel denied the Red Cross, an internationally recognized, unbiased organization, from giving medical aid to the thousands upon thousands of innocent civilians who were ultimately left to die very slow, painful deaths. Furthermore, the UN team responsible for protection of children in war zones says it found hundreds of human rights violations by Israeli troops who were using children as human shields. It was not Hamas, but Israeli troops that took 3 brothers from their home at gunpoint and made them kneel in front of the Israeli tanks to deter Hamas fighters from firing. The injustice is clear, but what has the international community done about it? What has the national community done about it? What have we as students of conscience done about it? Are we going to hold Israel accountable to these injustices, or are we to remain silent as our brothers and sisters in humanity are oppressed and slaughtered overseas? We have the privilege to choose whether or not we want to deal with this injustice. So let us choose to engage ourselves in making incremental and concerted efforts towards change, starting with today. Jazakumullah khairan, and thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you. Next, we have Omar Efendim. Omar Efendim is a Syrian-American and a hip-hop artist here to share with us a few words.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Shalom alaikum. Peace to each and every one of you. Can I have a round of applause for all the organizers who made this event possible today? All the student organizations representing Palestinians, Arabs, Armenians, Indians, East Asian and Pacific Islanders, Africans, and anybody else who I've forgotten. I apologize. It was a long list, and that's true solidarity. If you guys want to take a moment to say hello to the camera, tell them that we're proud to be here representing truth, justice, and that's why we're here. The end goal is peace. No Palestinian solidarity event would be complete without a few words from the late Mahmoud Darwish. على هذه الأرض على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة تردد إبريل رائحة الخبز في الفجر تعويذة امرأة للرجال كتابات أسخيرس أول الحب عشب على حجر أمهات يطفن على خيط ناي وخوف الغزاة من الذكريات على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة نهايات أيلول امرأة تترك 40 بكامل مشمشها ساعة الشمس في السجن غيم يقلد سربا من الكائنات هتافات شعب لمن يصعدون إلى حذفهم باسمين وخوف الطغاة من الأغنيات على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة على هذه الأرض سيدة الأرض أم البدايات أم النهايات كانت تسمى فلسطين صارت تسمى فلسطين سيدتي أستحق لأنك سيدتي أستحق الحياة. Thank you, Mahmoud Darwish.